What if I told you your recurring dream about falling isn't just a random firing of neurons, but a message from your deepest self? A warning that something in your waking life is out of balance, that you're ignoring a fundamental truth your unconscious mind desperately wants you to see. Carl Jung discovered that dreams aren't just meaningless noise. They're a sophisticated communication system, sending you personalized guidance through symbols your rational mind can't create. That locked door you keep dreaming about? It's not just a door. It's an invitation to discover what lies beyond your conscious understanding. What if those strange symbols in your dreams aren't random at all? What if every character, every location, every seemingly nonsensical event is actually a carefully crafted message from a part of yourself that you rarely acknowledge? Think about last night's dream for a moment. That odd building, that mysterious figure, that impossible scenario. What if your unconscious mind chose those specific images to communicate something vitally important to you? Your dreams operate through a symbolic language, but unlike the universal languages we learn in school, this one is tailored specifically to you. It's a personalized code that speaks in images and emotions rather than words and grammar. This isn't some mystical fortune-telling system. It's a sophisticated psychological mechanism that Carl Jung discovered through years of careful observation and research. He recognized that our dreams aren't meaningless neural static, but a highly developed communication system uniquely calibrated to each individual's psyche. Our rational mind, however, tends to dismiss these symbolic messages. We wake up, shake our heads at the bizarre dream imagery, perhaps laugh about it with friends, and then continue with our day. Just a weird dream, we tell ourselves. Yet something remarkable happens beneath this conscious dismissal. Our unconscious mind persists, sending these symbolic communications with increasing urgency when we fail to recognize their significance. It's as though two parts of our mind speak entirely different languages, with the conscious mind struggling to comprehend what the unconscious is trying so desperately to communicate. Unlike the conventional signs we encounter in daily life, traffic signals, company logos, text abbreviations, dream symbols operate on a fundamentally different level. Jung made this distinction clear when he explained that ordinary signs function as straightforward labels, denoting specific objects or concepts through deliberate design or shared understanding. Think about how you immediately recognize what UN stands for without needing explanation. But symbols in your dreams aren't mere labels. They're evocative representations that tap into something beyond immediate comprehension. What makes this language so remarkable is that it emerges without your conscious direction. You don't deliberately create these dream symbols. They arise spontaneously from the depths of your unconscious. Jung emphasized that these symbols aren't products of conscious invention, but rather emerge organically, like flowers blooming from seeds. This spontaneous generation is what gives them their authentic power and profound meaning. They bypass the filters of conscious intention and arise directly from the wellspring of your psyche. Consider your dream symbols as words in a foreign language you once knew intimately, but have since forgotten. Learning to understand them requires patience, attention, and a willingness to listen. When you encounter a symbol, like the double adze found on ancient Cretan monuments, an object you can visually recognize but whose significance remains mysterious, you're invited to explore the hidden depths of its meaning. Your dream symbols function in precisely the same way, pointing towards something beyond their surface appearance. The truly fascinating aspect of this symbolic language is how multi-layered it is. Jung described a symbol as something that implies much more than its obvious meaning, possessing a wider, unconscious aspect that is never precisely defined or fully explained. This inherent ambiguity isn't a flaw, but a feature. It allows the symbol to resonate with the complexities of your unconscious mind. When you engage with a dream symbol, your mind naturally reaches toward ideas that transcend rational limitations, inviting you to explore territories of your inner landscape that remain hidden during waking hours. Your recurring dreams deserve special attention. Have you noticed certain themes, locations, or scenarios that appear repeatedly? These persistent symbols are particularly significant. They're messages your unconscious considers so important that it will continue sending them until you finally acknowledge their meaning. Like a friend who keeps calling until you finally pick up the phone, these recurring symbols represent something your deeper self needs you to recognize. What makes this symbolic language so powerful is its deeply personal nature. While certain archetypal patterns might appear across cultures, the specific form and meaning of your dream symbols are uniquely yours. Jung's approach to dream interpretation emphasized focusing on the specific content of your dream rather than applying generic interpretations from a dream dictionary. The most valuable insights come from exploring your personal associations with these dream images, as these associations reveal the specific message your unconscious is trying to convey. Imagine for a moment that your unconscious mind has been learning about you your entire life. Your fears, your desires, your unacknowledged talents, your repressed emotions. With this intimate knowledge, it has crafted a communication system using symbols that will resonate specifically with you. The same dream image might mean something entirely different to someone else because their unconscious has created a different symbolic language tailored to their unique psychological makeup. This is why understanding your dreams requires a personal approach. Your unconscious mind has created a personalized symbolic language that speaks directly to you and no one else. It knows which images will provoke emotion, which scenarios will capture your attention, and which symbols connect to your deepest concerns. This isn't random noise. It's a sophisticated communication system designed specifically for you by the most intimate expert on your psyche, your own unconscious mind. While that personalized dream language speaks to you in symbols, it's actually serving an even more profound purpose, establishing a detailed roadmap towards psychological wholeness. Have you ever noticed that certain dreams linger in your mind for days, weeks, or even years? There's a reason those particular images refuse to fade. They're not simply random neural firings or fragmented memories. They're signposts on your journey toward becoming more complete. Your dreams function as an internal navigation system, constantly working to guide you toward balance. Think about the last time you woke up from a particularly vivid or emotionally charged dream. That wasn't just your brain processing the day's events. It was your unconscious mind actively attempting to restore equilibrium within your psyche. When your conscious attitudes become too one-sided or extreme, your dreams step in with a corrective message. This balancing act happens every night without your awareness. Your unconscious mind, through the language of dreams, attempts to correct distortions or blind spots in your conscious perspective. It's like having an internal compass that constantly recalibrates, pointing you back towards center whenever you stray too far in any direction. The dreams themselves are the compass readings, offering guidance that your waking mind might resist or ignore. Imagine your psyche as a scale that your dreams are continuously trying to balance. When one side becomes too heavy with certain conscious attitudes, your dreams add weight to the neglected side of your personality. This creates a counterbalance, attempting to restore you to a state where both conscious and unconscious aspects exist in harmony. It's a remarkably sophisticated mechanism that operates whether you understand it or not. The fascinating aspect of this balancing function is how precisely tailored it is to your specific psychological state. Consider that recurring nightmare of falling that keeps disturbing your sleep. That dream isn't appearing randomly. It might be responding to an overly inflated self-image in your waking life. Your conscious mind might believe you're invincible, but your dreams send images of falling to literally bring you back down to earth. They're not punishing you. They're protecting you from the dangers of psychological imbalance. Or perhaps you pride yourself on being meticulously organized and in control. Your dreams might respond with scenarios of flooding waters, uncontrollable natural forces, or situations where your careful plans fall apart. Again, this isn't a criticism. It's a balancing mechanism. Your unconscious is saying, remember the vital importance of flexibility and spontaneity that you've been neglecting. This compensatory function works in the opposite direction too. If you're plagued by insecurity or self-doubt in your waking hours, your dreams might present you as powerful, accomplished, or heroic. They're attempting to balance your overly negative self-perception by showing qualities and capabilities you possess but fail to recognize. The dreams are trying to restore equilibrium, gently nudging you toward a more accurate and complete self-understanding. The general function of dreams, as Jung observed, is to restore psychological balance by producing dream material that reestablishes, in a subtle way, the total psychic equilibrium. This is what he called the complementary or compensatory role of dreams in our psychic makeup. Your unconscious and conscious minds must move on parallel lines, connected and in communication. When they become split apart, psychological disturbance follows. The ultimate goal of this dream-driven balancing act is integration, bringing together the conscious and unconscious aspects of yourself into a more complete personality. Your dreams aren't trying to sabotage your conscious attitudes, but rather to complement them with perspectives you've overlooked or rejected. They're offering the missing pieces to complete your psychological puzzle. Consider a person who consciously projects an image of moral superiority. Their dreams might present symbols that reveal their own hidden flaws or shortcomings, not to shame them, but to help them acknowledge a more realistic view of themselves. Accepting this more balanced self-image leads to greater authenticity and psychological freedom. It's the difference between living as a fragment of yourself versus living as your whole self. The map presented in your dreams isn't always easy to follow. The symbols can be confusing, the messages obscure, but they are always attempting to guide you toward equilibrium, a state where conscious and unconscious exist in harmony. Each dream offers another piece of the map, another step on the journey toward wholeness. This is why paying attention to your dreams is so valuable. They're actively working to restore your psychological balance while you sleep, offering guidance toward integration. They provide a counterweight to one-sided conscious attitudes that might otherwise lead you further from your authentic self. Your dreams aren't just passive reflections. They're active participants in your psychological health. The most transformative aspect of understanding this dream function is realizing that your unconscious isn't working against you. It's actually your greatest ally in becoming whole. When you begin to recognize and work with the balancing messages in your dreams, you collaborate with this inner wisdom rather than fighting against it. This collaboration accelerates your journey toward integration and wholeness. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, remember that your dreams aren't random. They're precisely calibrated responses to your current psychological state. They're attempting to guide you toward balance, toward wholeness, toward becoming more fully yourself. The parts of your personality that you've neglected or rejected will appear in your dreams, asking to be acknowledged and integrated. Beyond serving as a psychological balancing mechanism, your dreams may function as an early warning system for your life. Think about it. Have you ever had a dream that seemed to predict a situation months before it happened? This isn't mystical fortune-telling, but rather your unconscious mind processing subtle patterns your waking self is too distracted to notice. Your mind's deeper regions possess a remarkable capacity to anticipate events that haven't yet manifested in your waking reality. The unconscious operates beyond the constraints of immediate awareness, drawing conclusions from subtle cues and emerging patterns in your environment and relationships. These insights get translated into the symbolic language of your dreams, acting as guides or warnings about potential paths ahead. Consider what happens when you're driving toward a destination. Your conscious mind focuses on immediate concerns: the road directly ahead, the next turn, the car in front of you. But imagine if another part of you could simultaneously process all the traffic patterns miles ahead, weather systems moving in, and even the mechanical condition of your vehicle. This is similar to how your unconscious works while dreaming, taking in far more information than your conscious mind can handle and making connections your waking self misses entirely. This prophetic quality of dreams isn't supernatural. It's your unconscious mind operating in its natural state, unrestricted by the linear time constraints that govern conscious thought. While your waking mind is preoccupied with immediate concerns and logical structures, your unconscious mind is free to process information in non-linear ways, making connections across time and space that your conscious mind would dismiss as irrelevant or coincidental. What makes these dream warnings particularly powerful is their origin in your own deepest wisdom. They emerge from a part of you that perceives dangers and imbalances your conscious mind refuses to acknowledge. When you're headed down a problematic path, perhaps pushing yourself too hard at work, ignoring relationship warning signs, or suppressing important emotional needs, your unconscious often responds with increasingly vivid symbolic warnings. Imagine these warnings as coming from a concerned friend who knows you intimately. At first, this friend might offer gentle suggestions. Hey, have you noticed this pattern? But if you ignore these subtle hints, the friend becomes more dramatic in their attempts to get your attention. Similarly, your unconscious mind may start with mild symbolic warnings in dreams that, if ignored, escalate to more disturbing or repetitive dream scenarios, the psychological equivalent of your friend grabbing you by the shoulders and shouting to get your attention. The consequences of dismissing these dream warnings can manifest in tangible ways. Many people report experiencing accidents, relationship breakdowns, or health issues after repeatedly ignoring dreams that seem to foreshadow these events. One person described recurring dreams of a building's foundation cracking, which they dismissed as meaningless, until their carefully constructed career collapsed months later due to problems they had subconsciously detected but consciously ignored. Another individual reported dreams of swimming in increasingly murky water before developing serious health problems that their conscious mind had refused to acknowledge. The symbolic murkiness represented deteriorating physical conditions that were subtly present but not yet obvious enough for conscious recognition. The unconscious, in its wisdom, attempts to restore psychological balance by presenting these symbolic warnings when we stray from our authentic path. As noted in Jung's research, the unconscious, operating through the lens of archetypes, seems to make its deliberations instinctively, guided by inherent patterns of thought and feeling. These archetypes possess their own initiative and energy, enabling them to generate meaningful interpretations that can influence our actions, if we learn to pay attention. What makes dream warnings challenging to interpret is their symbolic nature. A dream about a house falling apart rarely means your actual house is in danger. Instead, it might represent a relationship or personal identity structure that's becoming unstable. The very structure of dreams, with their often illogical narratives and symbolic language, reflects the unconscious's natural mode of operation. As Jung observed, a dream cannot produce a definite thought in the same way that conscious thought does. If it begins to do so, it ceases to be a dream because it crosses the threshold of consciousness. This is why dreams often seem to skip the very points that would be most helpful to our conscious understanding. They operate from what Jung called the fringe of consciousness, bringing forward material that complements rather than duplicates our waking awareness. The symbolic nature of these warnings isn't a deliberate disguise, but simply the natural language of the unconscious mind. Learning to recognize these prophetic symbols requires developing a relationship with your unconscious rather than trying to control it. Start by paying attention to dreams that evoke strong emotional responses or that repeat with variations. Record them without immediately trying to analyze them. Over time, patterns emerge that reveal your unconscious mind's particular symbolic vocabulary for warning you about specific situations. The potential benefit of developing this relationship with your dreams is immense. Imagine navigating life with access to a deeper awareness that can sense approaching difficulties before they become crises. This doesn't mean you'll avoid all challenges. Some difficulties are necessary for growth, but you might approach them with greater awareness and preparation. Think of your unconscious as a partner in navigation, one that can sometimes see around corners your conscious mind cannot. When integrated properly, these seemingly prophetic dreams don't create anxiety about the future, but rather enhance your ability to move through it with greater wisdom and preparation. Some of the most transformative insights come when we recognize patterns between dreams and subsequent events. One person described dreaming repeatedly about trying to cross a bridge that kept transforming beneath their feet. 6 months before facing a major life transition that required significant adaptability. The dream didn't predict specific events, but rather prepared them for the quality of experience they would need to navigate. The bridge in that recurring dream, transforming beneath someone's feet, is no accident of brain chemistry or random neural firing. That symbol emerges from a dimension of the human mind far deeper and more ancient than our personal memories. What if I told you that across every corner of our planet, from indigenous tribes with no contact with the outside world to modern city dwellers, certain fundamental dream images appear again and again with remarkable consistency? This observation led Jung to one of his most profound insights. Beneath our individual consciousness lies a vast reservoir of inherited patterns that shape how we experience reality. These universal patterns, Jung called archetypes, primordial mental structures that exist within what he termed the collective unconscious. Unlike personal memories or experiences, these archetypal patterns represent something far more fundamental. They are the psychological equivalent of our shared biological inheritance. Just as your body came pre-programmed with instincts for survival, your mind arrives equipped with these archetypal tendencies that influence how you perceive and organize your experience of the world. What makes archetypes particularly fascinating is their dynamic nature. They aren't simply fixed images or rigid templates, but rather, as Jung described them, they are inherited predispositions or tendencies to form certain types of images and symbols. Think of them as invisible currents that guide the flow of your dream imagery, shaping how your unconscious communicates with your conscious mind. These archetypes don't dictate specific content, but instead create patterns within which your personal experiences can organize themselves. The universal nature of these archetypal patterns explains why certain motifs appear in dreams across vastly different cultures. The hero who must overcome adversity, the wise elder who offers guidance, the trickster who disrupts established order. These figures emerge in dreams without known origin, and they reproduce themselves in any time or in any part of the world, even where transmission by direct descent or cross-fertilization through migration must be ruled out. This universality points to something essential about human psychology that transcends cultural conditioning. Children provide some of the most compelling evidence for the innate nature of archetypes. Jung noted that the production of archetypes by children is especially significant because one can sometimes be quite certain that a child has had no direct access to the tradition concerned. A child who dreams of a wise old figure guiding them through a forest hasn't necessarily been exposed to cultural stories containing this motif, yet the archetype manifests spontaneously from their unconscious. Such observations suggest these patterns are woven into the very fabric of our minds. The confusion about dream interpretation often stems from the tension between the universal nature of archetypes and their highly personal manifestations. While the underlying pattern might be universal, the specific details and imagery are shaped by your individual experiences. The archetype of the hostile brethren, for instance, might appear as feuding siblings in one person's dream and as warring internal impulses in another's. Your unconscious draws upon your personal history to clothe these archetypal energies in images that will resonate with your conscious mind. Some of the most commonly encountered archetypes include the shadow, which represents those aspects of yourself you've rejected or disowned, the anima or animus, representing your inner feminine or masculine energies, the wise elder, embodying guidance and wisdom, and the self, which represents the unifying center of your entire personality. Each of these appears in dreams as distinct figures or symbols, yet they all operate within a consistent psychological framework across humanity. Consider how these archetypes might manifest in your dreams. The shadow often appears as a figure of the same gender as yourself, perhaps threatening or pursuing you, or possessing qualities you consciously reject. The anima in men, or animus in women, typically appears as an attractive or compelling figure of the opposite sex. The wise elder emerges as a mentor figure offering guidance or wisdom in moments of crisis. And the self, perhaps the most profound archetype, often appears as a unifying symbol like a mandala, a special number, or a divine child. What makes these archetypal dream symbols particularly powerful is that they aren't simply produced by your conscious mind. The symbols are for the most part manifestations of a psyche that is beyond the control of the conscious mind. They arise spontaneously, carrying their own energy and initiative. Rather than being mere reflections of your conscious thoughts or disguises for repressed desires, they represent the unconscious attempting to communicate something essential to your conscious awareness. This communication isn't random. It serves a purpose. The archetypes and their symbolic expressions can influence our thoughts, feelings, and actions in ways that guide our psychological development. By recognizing these archetypal patterns in your dreams, you gain access to a deeper level of self-understanding. You begin to see how your personal experiences connect to universal human themes and how your individual journey reflects patterns that have guided humanity throughout history. The interpretive challenge lies in balancing universal meaning with personal context. The interpretation of dreams and symbols largely depends upon the individual circumstances of the dreamer and the condition of his mind. A bridge in your dream might connect to the universal archetype of transition or crossing between worlds, but the specific meaning emerges from your unique circumstances. Is the bridge stable or crumbling? Are you crossing alone or with others? Each detail provides crucial context for interpretation. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of archetypes is how they bridge the gap between our personal psychology and our collective humanity. When you recognize an archetypal pattern in your dreams, you're connecting with something that transcends your individual existence. You're touching a psychological reality shared across generations and cultures. This recognition can be profoundly healing, helping you understand that even your most private struggles and transformations participate in humanity's shared psychological journey. Shadow aspects don't reveal themselves to us in broad daylight. That discomfort you feel when certain dream symbols appear night after night isn't random. It's a deliberate message from the deeper layers of your psyche. Beyond the archetypal patterns we've explored lies a more intimate territory filled with the parts of yourself you've actively chosen to forget. Think about that recurring dream figure that makes you inexplicably uncomfortable, or that situation that fills you with dread despite seeming harmless on the surface. What if these aren't random disturbances, but messengers carrying the very keys to your psychological wholeness? When we encounter uncomfortable truths about ourselves in dreams, our first instinct is often to turn away. We wake up, shake off the dream, and rationalize it as meaningless. Just stress, or something I ate. This dismissal isn't accidental. It's part of how we protect ourselves from painful self-awareness. The secretary who consistently forgets to invite a disliked colleague to meetings might never consciously acknowledge her true motivation, even to herself. Her conscious mind maintains a comfortable fiction, while her unconscious knows the truth. Our dreams, operating from this deeper perspective, refuse to participate in this self-deception. When you push certain characteristics or memories into the darkness, you don't eliminate them. You simply lose conscious control over how they influence you. The unconscious mind, rather than being a passive storage room, actively processes these hidden elements, sometimes projecting them outward onto others. This psychological defense mechanism, projection, is particularly revealing in dreams. You might dream about someone you know, possessing qualities you strongly dislike, when in reality, the dream is showing you aspects of yourself you've refused to acknowledge. As one psychologist observed in a patient's dream analysis, the dream was trying to convey the idea that she herself was shadowed by an unconscious character that resembled the other woman. What we most strongly reject in others often reflects disowned elements of ourselves. The consequences of continued repression extend far beyond occasional uncomfortable dreams. There's a crucial psychological principle at work here. What we repress doesn't simply disappear. It spreads through our personality in unexpected ways. These repressed contents, as they're called, manifest as neurotic symptoms, creating a growing sense of inner division, that feeling of being fundamentally at odds with yourself. Imagine your psyche as a house with many rooms. When something painful or threatening appears, you quickly lock it behind a door, hoping to forget about it. But that locked room doesn't remain silent. At first, there might be gentle knocking, subtle dreams, or fleeting thoughts. When ignored, the knocking becomes louder. Recurring dreams, slips of speech, or emotional reactions disproportionate to their triggers. Eventually, what's locked away begins finding escape routes through cracks in the walls, influencing other rooms in ways you never intended. Your dreams persistently return to these repressed elements because they're attempting to restore balance. The unconscious mind, serving as the caretaker of your psychological health, generates dream material specifically designed to reestablish equilibrium. When you've pushed essential parts of yourself into shadow, your dreams will continue bringing them into the light until you finally acknowledge them. Facing these shadow aspects requires genuine courage. It means encountering parts of yourself that may contradict your self-image, aggression, desire, vulnerability, or power that you've deemed unacceptable. It means questioning deeply held beliefs about who you are and who you should be. This isn't a theoretical exercise. It's deeply emotional work that challenges the very foundation of your identity. The journey into your unconscious requires navigating without the comfortable clarity of rational thought. The unconscious communicates through symbols precisely because these repressed contents often exist beyond the reach of our everyday language. As the research shows, every concrete object is always unknown in certain respects, as we cannot know the ultimate nature of matter itself. Your dreams use symbolic language not to confuse you, but to express what literal language cannot contain. What makes this confrontation particularly challenging is that it requires suspending judgment. We've spent years building defenses against these repressed aspects for a reason. They were once threatening to our self-concept or social acceptance. Approaching them with open curiosity rather than immediate rejection demands psychological flexibility that doesn't come naturally. Yet the transformation that comes from integrating these shadow elements is profound. As you acknowledge and incorporate these disowned aspects, the energy previously spent on repression becomes available for conscious use. The gap between who you present yourself to be and who you truly are narrows, reducing the psychological strain of maintaining a divided self. Research reveals that the more that consciousness is influenced by prejudices, errors, fantasies, and infantile wishes, the more the already existing gap will widen into a neurotic dissociation and lead to a more or less artificial life, far removed from healthy instincts, nature, and truth. Each step toward integration, each shadow element you acknowledge and incorporate, brings you closer to authentic living. This is why the journey into the unconscious has been compared to the hero's quest in mythology. The treasure isn't gold or glory, but psychological wholeness, a self that integrates both light and shadow. The dragons guarding this treasure are your own fears and defenses, the monsters you've created to keep yourself from facing uncomfortable truths. But like all mythological monsters, they appear most terrifying when viewed from a distance. When confronted directly with courage and compassion, they often transform into unexpected allies. Beyond understanding the universal patterns, beyond facing your dragons, lies the most profound challenge of all: decoding the personalized language your unconscious has crafted specifically for you. Your dreams don't speak in universal code, but in a hybrid dialect, combining archetypal patterns with your unique life experiences. What treasures might you discover if you could finally understand the messages that have been waiting for you night after night? The journey toward understanding this personalized symbolic language is intensely practical, requiring not prescriptive formulas, but a thoughtful approach unique to you. Think of the last vivid dream you remember, the specific images, feelings, and scenarios that appeared. Generic dream dictionaries would have you believe that water always means emotion, or that flying always represents freedom. But Jung discovered something far more nuanced. The same symbol can carry dramatically different meanings, depending on the dreamer's life circumstances, cultural background, and psychological state. This is precisely where most people go wrong in dream interpretation. They reach for the nearest dream dictionary or online guide, hoping for quick answers about what their teeth falling out means or why they were being chased. These generic interpretations miss the mark because they assume symbols operate like algebraic equations with fixed values, when in reality, they function more like poetry, rich with personal associations, cultural contexts, and emotional resonances unique to you. Consider Jung's approach, which prioritizes the individual's unique perspective and the dream's specific narrative. He emphasized that effective interpretation involves a careful exploration of the dream from multiple perspectives. In his words, a truly meaningful interpretation requires a deep dive into the dreamer's personal world, acknowledging that dreams speak in a symbolic language tailored specifically to you. This means that the house appearing in your dream carries associations from your childhood home, your current living situation, and perhaps even houses that left strong impressions on you throughout your life. Jung's method diverged significantly from Freud's technique of free association. While Freud encouraged dreamers to freely associate to dream images, often leading far away from the original dream content, Jung believed dreams possessed a purposeful structure. He developed a technique called circumambulation, which involved exploring the dream picture from all sides, examining its details and associations while staying focused on the dream itself. This prevents the interpretation from wandering too far from what the unconscious was actually attempting to communicate. A practical approach to beginning this work starts with the simple act of recording your dreams. Keep a notebook and pen beside your bed, and upon waking, immediately write down everything you remember, no matter how fragmented or bizarre. Don't censor or organize. Simply capture the raw material. Notice the details: colors, numbers, weather conditions, emotions, and especially your reactions within the dream. These elements provide essential clues to the dream's message. When examining a particular dream symbol, ask yourself questions like, what personal associations do I have with this image? What was happening in my life when this symbol appeared? How did I feel about this symbol within the dream itself? The meaning often lies not in the object itself, but in your relationship to it and the emotional charge it carries. A snake in your dream might represent healing and transformation if you've had positive experiences with snakes, or in danger and deception if your associations are primarily negative. This process requires differentiating between personal and collective meanings, another crucial aspect of Jungian dream interpretation. While certain symbols may connect to archetypal patterns shared across humanity, their manifestation and significance are always colored by your personal experiences. The wise elder figure in your dream draws power from the universal archetype, but their specific appearance, words, and actions are tailored precisely to your unique psychological needs. The practice of dream interpretation becomes more refined with time. You'll begin noticing patterns, recurring symbols, or themes that appear under specific circumstances in your life. These patterns form a dictionary of sorts, but one written exclusively for you. Perhaps you dream of bridges before major life transitions, or underground spaces when exploring repressed emotions. By noticing these personal patterns, you develop fluency in your dream language. This personalized approach explains why Jung emphasized that dream interpretation is not a one-size-fits-all endeavor. It is a process that must be tailored to the individual's unique circumstances. He provided examples illustrating how identical symbols could carry different meanings for different people. For instance, the dream of riding a horse across a field might represent encouragement for a cautious young person, while for a daring older individual, it could simply reflect their current state of being. Working with dreams in this way requires patience. The unconscious reveals its messages gradually, often through a series of related dreams, rather than a single dramatic revelation. This isn't merely an intellectual exercise. It's a relationship-building process with the deeper layers of your own psyche. As you demonstrate willingness to listen and engage with dream material, the unconscious often responds with increased clarity in subsequent dreams. The rewards of this practice extend far beyond simple curiosity satisfaction. Jung viewed dream work as inextricably linked to the process of psychological integration. Dreams present material that compensates for imbalances within the conscious mind, offering insights into unresolved conflicts and overlooked aspects of your personality. By understanding and integrating these messages, you gain profound insights that lead toward a greater sense of wholeness. This integration process transforms not just your inner landscape, but your waking life. Relationships improve as you become aware of unconscious projections. Creative blocks dissolve as you tap into wellsprings of imagery and intuition. Decisions become more aligned with your authentic self rather than driven by unacknowledged fears or desires. The result is a life guided by both conscious intention and unconscious wisdom, a partnership between the different aspects of your psyche. As our journey through the realm of dreams comes to a close, we arrive at perhaps the most profound insight of all. The map hidden within your nighttime narratives isn't leading to some external treasure. It's guiding you home to yourself. The ultimate purpose of dream interpretation isn't merely academic understanding, but the restoration of psychological balance, where the unconscious helps reestablish equilibrium through symbolic material. When you begin to recognize that your dreams are not random mental noise, but precise expressions of your inner world, something remarkable happens. The integration of conscious and unconscious aspects creates a more authentic self, one that embodies wholeness rather than fragmentation. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, remember that your unconscious isn't working against you, but alongside you. It speaks a language of symbols that, once understood, becomes the bridge between the rational and instinctual parts of your mind. This isn't about finding simple answers, but embarking on a journey of self-discovery where you become the hero of your own inner world. The treasure waiting at the end of this path? A more complete version of yourself, the person you were always meant to become.